Howdy all, grab yourselves a beer. It is time for some Path of Exile economic discussion. And today I wanted to look at some of the things that the Synthesis League has caused to jump considerably in price, and how you might go about target farming them if you're looking to make yourself some currency. Now, mostly aiming this at people that aren't really enjoying the synthesis mechanics and would rather do other things inside the game than, running the memory nexus or running fragments inside maps. So this is something, things that you can do if you're not particularly enjoying those parts and you just want to make some currency and participate in the parts of the game that you like yourself. I'm not one of those people. I've been quite enjoying the synthesis mechanics, but plenty of people haven't been, so this is for you guys. First up, this website is poe.ninja. It's an economic aggregator for Path of Exile. It uses information that's found inside players' publicly available stash tabs and converts that into economic information about the game. So it's got stuff like relative values from one currency to another, how many divine orbs how many chaos orbs is it take to buy a divine orb, how many chaos orbs is a master cartographer's sextant, all sorts of things like that. But also lots of other less frequently traded items like model ignorance, the Uber-Atzeri fragment, the fragment of the Chimera, which is used for access, part of the entrance into the Shaper's Lair and the Uber Elder encounter, and things like a Primordial Blocks Tier 14 map. How much are all of these going for? If you're not familiar with the website, just select your league. For me, it is Synthesis Softcore, and it will default to the currency tab. If you want to check out something else, you can check out Fragments, which includes various Breachstone variants, and you can see here Mortal Hope, 20 chaos typically. There's people buying it for 15. The real value is usually somewhere in between. The rarer an item is, the less accurate it'll be. So for instance, if you look up Helmet Enchants, this information can quite often be pretty close to rubbish. Whereas things like Shaper and Elder bases are also a bit less accurate. We'll just apologise, I'm recovering from a cold at the moment, so you might get the odd cough that I can't suppress. But things like divination cards that are in high circulation, like something like the Mayor, divination card, the Doctor, these prices are actually pretty accurate. Now, so the first thing that I want to suggest that you can do in this league, if you're looking for a way to make currency that hasn't worked in the past but does now, have a look at the essences prices. And you'll notice that there are much higher prices for essences than in most leagues, and that these exploded just a few days ago. So you'll see last 7 days, Deafening Essence of Zeal is up 211%. This is because patch 3.6.3 allowed essences to be used on fractured items, which opened up an enormous amount of new crafting options. In any case, you don't necessarily need to understand all of the ways that people are using these, because synthesized crafting is pretty complex. You don't need to understand it in order to profit from it. The way that you will use this information is to recognize that essences are much higher value than they've been in the past, and additionally, just this league, Zana's essence modifier was buffed. Zana's map mod for essences was buffed. This now costs 3 chaos, whereas previously when it's been available, it's often cost 5, and it adds 3 essence packs to a map rather than 2. My suggestion here is that when you're running maps, you're running whatever tier of maps you find comfortable running, whether that be tier 8, whether it be tier 16, just make your own decision. Don't corrupt your maps, even if you normally would be, and instead add Zana's essence mod onto them. This will add 3 packs of essence monsters, which will have, depending upon the quantity that you've got on your map, and also on some luck, these will have between 1 and 4 essences contained within them. Reasonably often, each one will contain 3, and they'll be biased towards the 5th tier of essences. So these are your tier 5 essences. You'll see that here, then, Shrieking Essence of Zeal is erroneously priced. I think there might be some people making some dishonest offers to sell it for 1 chaos, but in actual fact, these are 6 chaos orbs. They're not. It's just not accurate that they're 1.8. So you'll get these a bit in there. You'll get Screaming of Dread, Screaming of Greed, Screaming of Spite, Envy, and so on. You might leave a map on average with 5 of these essences, and that I think is actually a pretty good deal at the moment. You want to upgrade them yourself into the tier 7 versions, so if you own an essence tab, you can do that inside your essence tab. If you don't, what you need to do is take 3 Screaming of the same type to a vendor and sell them. So if you have 3 Screaming Essence of Dread, sell them to a vendor, and the vendor will return you 1 Shrieking Essence of Dread. Upgrade them to at least tier 6. It will vary from there whether you want to upgrade them to tier 7 or not. If the demand for the items comes from the ability to add levels to socketed gems on bows, you may actually not want to upgrade them to tier 7, because you'll notice here, Shrieking Essence of Spite. Now, Shrieking Essences of Spite you will actually want to upgrade. It's just requires a lot of knowledge of the economy to make the right decision here. The main reason people are using this is to add intelligence to items at the moment. Items that couldn't normally roll intelligence. It's not to add levels to socketed lightning gems. But let's just assume that it was to add to socketed lightning gems. Here you'll see +2 to socketed gems, and then we go and check out the equivalent in tier 7, and it's still +2. So for that reason, a player that was intending to buy this for that purpose will not pay any more for the tier 7 than the tier 6. However, I think that's only the case for one of the essences. I think it's the one that adds chaos. Bow gems. This one here. +2 to level of socketed bow gems, Dread. That's desired, and I don't believe that the Deafening Essence of Dread. So don't upgrade Dread, upgrade everything else. And you can upgrade Dread to 6, just not to 7. And then sell them off. When you've got them as tier 7s, there's a lot more... don't sell yourself short. Check that you're getting the right price for them. And what I mean by that is, let's have a look at this Deafening Essence of Rage. You'll notice that there's a bunch of listings here for 10 Chaos or so, but most of them seem pretty old. So this one's recent. This one's 7 days old. This one's 17 hours old. And then you start seeing the price goes up pretty quickly. This is an indication that at least some of these listings may actually be bad faith listings. So they're not actually there as this. I'm suspecting, and I could be wrong, I don't think this person is actually intending to sell. I think they're just going to pretend not to hear when you send them a tell asking to buy that off them. And that may be the case with some of the others as well. I think the true price on this essence is higher than it actually appears here at the moment. In any case, Zana Essences is the first tip that I've got. The second tip comes from noticing that Orbs of Annulment are up. If you're curious as to why this is, you can watch my video on any of my synthesis crafting videos, and you'll see that Orbs of Annulment are just in... Firstly, they're just a very rare currency item, and secondly, they are in huge demand this league. However, what's changed with Orbs of Annulment this league is that there are... there's a lot more demand for them, but there is also a way to target farm them that I don't think many people are really doing. Orbs of Annulment are extremely rare drops, and when I say extremely rare, I mean extremely rare, that can come from any monster anywhere in the game. However, they can also be acquired by merging together 20 Annulment Shards. Annulment Shards are relatively common drops from Harbinger encounters, and if you've progressed Zana's quest chain far enough, so that means the memory fragments chain, if you've gotten to the appropriate point in that, which is actually from memory quite a fair way in, you gain the ability to use Zana's Harbinger mod, which costs 4 Chaos Orbs to use and causes a couple of Harbingers to spawn on the map that you're running. Don't run this on corrupted maps because it will cost you 4 Chaos plus 4 Val, which at current market conditions is 11.5 Chaos Orbs, and you will not see a return on that. However, if you roll a map that's pretty juicy, it's got a decent item quantity, maybe in the 90 range, then I would strongly suggest that you whack the Harbinger mod on it if you're able. Harbingers, as I say, they have an actually pretty high drop rate of these Annulment Shards. And when they drop 1, they don't generally drop 1, they'll drop 2, 3, sometimes even 4. So, although the moment you'll see here that the Annulment Shards are listed as 2.5 Chaos, that's actually not accurate. I believe that Orbs of Annulment are going for about 41 Chaos at the moment, so that means that each Annulment Shard is 2.05 Chaos, roughly. If you get a stack of 4 of them, that's 8 and a bit Chaos Orbs. Now, this will approximately pay, on average, for your Harbinger mod that you're putting on the maps at current Orb of Annulment prices. As a side note, however, you will not just get Annulment Shards from Harbinger encounters. Firstly, the Harbingers cause a whole lot of extra magic monsters to be on the map, and magic monsters drop lots of loot in general. Each magic monster drops 7 or 8 times the loot of a normal monster, so that's always good. They will occasionally drop Exalted Shards. They can theoretically drop Mirror Shards, but yeah, this doesn't happen in practice. It sort of will happen to a couple of lucky people or League. But the things that will be noticeable, you will get Ancient Shards, which make up Ancient Orbs, and you will get Harbinger Shards, which make up Harbinger Orbs. These Ancient Orb Shards are about 1 3/4 Chaos. Harbinger Shards are about 3/4 of a Chaos. You will get enough of these that they will be quite the bonus. So your Annulment Shards are paying the Chaos fee for your decision to run the Harbinger mod on your maps. You know, over a long period of time. You'll get these Ancient Shards and Harbinger Shards for free, basically. And the odd occasionally Exalted Shard, although they'll be much rarer. These will then add up. Just a side note, don't use Ancient Orbs yourself unless you're very familiar with the tricks for min-maxing them. The reason they're 35 Chaos is not because they give 35 Chaos in value to an uninformed user, but they give perhaps 40-45 Chaos in value to a user that knows exactly how to get the most out of them. This can mean attempting to use them to create a Headhunter unique belt, or it can mean using them to create a Lycosidae unique shield, which are the two uses for them that min-maxers actually use. And the existence of those options is the reason Ancient Orbs are as expensive as they are. Don't use them on anything else, unless you're solo self-found, in which case you're probably not watching a video about the Path of Exile Synthesis League economy. Anyways, so Zana Harbinger is the second tip that I've got there. With a goal towards farming Orbs of Annulment via Annulment Shards, selling them to fund the actual purchase of the Zana Harbinger mod, and getting Ancient Orbs, Harbinger Orbs, and Exalted Shards and more maps as a happy side effect. My third, fourth, and fifth economic tips all revolve around one thing, and that is Fractured Fossils being phenomenally expensive this league. Fractured Fossils are expensive for a very good reason this league. Where in the past, these have only really been used effectively on helmet enchants. So, you know, someone gets lucky and gets, say, a helmet with Molten Strike enchant on it, and the base of the helmet is excellent. Maybe it's an item level 86 Elder helmet. Maybe it's or maybe they've got an item level 86 Shaper helmet that's got Winter Orb, the Winter Orb enchant on it, the +2 stages. You've got an amazingly good implicit via the Labyrinth, and you then use these Fractured Fossils to make potentially quite bad items, but they inherit that implicit from the base item. That's been the historic use, and with that use in mind, they were generally going for about 1 1/4, 1.5 Exalts. Now, a couple of videos ago, I mentioned that I thought that Fractured Fossils would hit 5 Exalts this league, and I believe I was right. In fact, I believe they may even be more than they look at the moment. I think that these listings at 3.5 Exalts are bad faith listings, I believe, where someone's just putting them up at a price that they don't actually intend to sell them at. I believe that may even be true of the 4.5 Exalts, and they may be that you need to go to the 4.7 to get someone that will respond. In any case, Fractured Fossils are incredibly good because the absolute best synthesis crafts that have either 2 perfect implicits or 3 implicits, of which 2 are excellent and 1 is marginal. I don't think we're going to see very many items with 3 perfect implicits. A lot of these items exist, and they're so strong often. They're so strong often that even using that item without any additional mods on it would be powerful for a lot of characters. To give one example, there was a amulet that was being showcased on Reddit recently, and I actually contacted the owner of that and asked them to make a Fractured Fossil copy for me using my Fractured Fossil, and I paid them 3 Exalted Orbs to do so, for the ability to do so. This amulet in question was had the following 2 implicits. First implicit was 15% increased intelligence, and which applies to your entire character. It doesn't just apply to the intelligence that you gain from that amulet. It's to your entire character. And then the second implicit that it had was your character deals your skills deal 1% increased damage per 15 intelligence on your character. Anyways, I had this. This was the item that this person had. They were sort of bragging about it on Reddit, and I contacted them, as I said, and gave them a Fractured Fossil, a Metallic Fossil, which is the lightning fossil, a Prismatic Fossil, which is the Elemental Fossil, and a Sanctified Fossil, which increases. Basically, it causes the item to bias towards having better mods. Gave them that and a 4-socket resonator, and they then used it on their own item, and then they kept the original, so they still had the original that they'd made, and they gave me the copy, which was quite a solid item. I believe from memory it had tier 2 increased cold damage to attacks, tier 2 increased lightning damage to attacks, a decent cold resistance roll, a decent lightning resistance roll, and a bad critical multiplier roll. Only 5 mods, and because the copy was mirrored, I can't then craft a 6th stat on it. However, if you think to the previous league, how expensive it would have been to make a Shaper item that had 6 of those 7 mods on it, that would have probably almost been that probably would have been an item that would have sold for 50 exalts last league. I got it for the sum of a 3 exalt fee plus a Fractured Fossil plus relatively cheap other fossils. So as a buyer, I was pretty happy with that deal. Lots of other people are in my situation. They can afford a Fractured Fossil service. They have seen a synthesis craft that is just beyond their ability to replicate, and they would like to have a mirrored copy of it. Those people are buying Fractured Fossils like crazy, and they have become much more expensive. But this hasn't really caused the other ultra rare fossils to fall in price either. See, Bloodstained fossils are still holding up well, Faceted, Hollow fossils still holding up. Hollow fossils exploded recently because someone used more than 100 of them to craft mirror tier boots. Glyphic fossils are the fifth of the 6 ultra rare fossils, and Tangled fossils are so bad that they're almost worthless, as they always are. In any case, the key here is that these ultra rare fossils are holding a higher value than normal, and that is because the synthesis mechanics are making Fractured Fossils better than they've been in the past. How do you take advantage of this? Well, the first of the 3 options is the high investment approach, and this is to go and farm Fractured Fossils yourself. Fractured Fossils are ultra rare until you get to about depth 500 in the Delve Mines. If you're one of the small number of people that can get to Delve 500, then in that case, what you want to do is buy up lots of gilded sulphite scarabs, polished sulphite scarabs, rusted sulphite scarabs. Keep these in mind, we'll be coming back to them later. Buy up lots of sulphite scarabs, farm up an enormous amount of sulphite, and get digging in the mines. And when you're going around looking, you'll find a lot more. You'll find Fractured Fossils at, well, they'll still be very rare, but you will get enough of them to pretty much pay for the sulphite that you're using. So if we have another quick look at the sulphite prices, it looks like looks like basically 1 exalt buys 3 polished buys about 3 polished sulphite scarabs at the moment. If you can sell your fractured fossils for 5 exalts, that's what you probably get 14 or 15 sulphite scarabs out of that. And with 14 or 15 sulphite scarabs, you're actually in a pretty good place to find your next fractured fossil with that. And then assuming that you do, all of the other loot you get in the delve is free. Even if you don't quite get that many fractured fossils, because as I say, they are still ultra rare even at that depth. They're still not common. Most of them will be behind fractured walls, in paths that you can only access down a fractured wall. They'll be very hard to actually acquire. But assuming that you are just getting more fractured fossils than you're used to, this will mean that you're getting more returns out of your delve mining at very, very, very deep delves. Additionally, all the other rewards for very deep delves are still there. You'll still get the lucrative currency nodes. You'll still get the absolute fountains of maps, both normal and corrupted, that you can then sell. You'll find lots of other fossils. You'll find the divination cards. I mean, I've personally found a doctor in the mines this league. That was quite lucky, but you'll find good divination cards. You'll find item level 83 Shaper and Elder bases quite frequently. You will find all sorts of other goodies in there. But this is the thing that's gone up in value, and so it means there's more value to going deep in the mines than there has been in the past. Now, my fourth suggestion. So the third suggestion in recap is just to farm fractured fossils and farm deep in the mines in the hope of finding more fractured fossils than usual. You'll notice I mentioned sulphite scarabs in that. People that are very deep in the delve mines are net consumers of sulphite scarabs. You can get in on this action by selling sulphite scarabs to people that are, if you're not, maybe you're in a position where you cannot complete delves that are as deep as 500. Maybe alternately, you feel you could beat them, but you just cannot be bothered making that huge investment of investing in your delve mines until you are 500 deep. That's perfectly fine. In that case, what you want to be doing is selling these sulphite scarabs. The primary source for them, they can drop in the memory nexus, but the primary source for them is the betrayal content from the intervention safe houses. So you will want to be running the intervention safe houses and getting sulphite scarabs as often as you can from those. Do that and you will be able to, one, assist the people that are farming in fractured fossils in their endeavours, and to reap the rewards of doing so, because sulphite scarabs have never been as expensive as they are now, and potentially there's room for them still to increase in price because they, the delve mines give so much loot when you get deep that, that sulphite scarabs are just somewhat ridiculous in that regard. Now, my fifth suggestion is again relates to the sulphite economy, and again the increased demand for fractured fossils this league. And that is, when your daily Niko spawns, let's assume that you've decided you really cannot be bothered with going deep in the delve mines. But let's say that you're running red maps. So, you're running your tier 14 Ivory Temple has your daily Niko spawn on it. Rather than just getting the spawns yourself and, then messing around in the delve mines, which of course, if you want to do that, go ahead. But what you can do is you can roll up a fairly juicy Ivory Temple and then clear the map entirely, but just leave the 3 Niko spawns untouched. At that point, ask around in the trade channels. So there is Trade 820 is a particularly good one. Jump into Trade 820 and say, I have a tier 14 map with Niko in it, 3 nodes, quantity of the zone is 109%, should be about 3,000 to 4,000 sulphite. You'll be getting them alone, and just ask for a higher price than you might think is fair. So start out by asking for 25 chaos. See if anyone is willing to offer you 25 chaos to come into your map. All they do is they just take the 3 Nikos and then they pay you afterwards. If you don't get a taker at 25, drop it to 20. If If you don't get a taker at 20, drop it to 15, although you will get a taker at 20. The entire goal here is basically to sell Sulphite to other players that are willing to overpay for it because of the fractured fossil economy in the Synthesis League. And this allows you, basically, they're making so much money that they're willing to pay higher prices than they have historically for Sulphite via any means, whether it be a scarab or whether it be by buying your daily. It is very important, because of the way that Sulphite is shared, that you exit the map after inviting them. And you'll have to negotiate trust yourself. There certainly is the potential for dishonesty to be involved in a transaction of this nature, but you'll have to just manage that. My approach is just to say, I will accept the risk of being scammed. It will happen one time in 20 that you sell a service unsecurely in the game. You just have to end up dealing with that, and occasionally you'll have a loss, but it's not that bad. So, to recap, the 3 ways that you can interact with the fractured fossil economy without actually doing synthesis crafting yourself. The first one is to create fractured fossils by doing very deep delves, and to sell them into the massive hype for fractured fossils that exists right now. The second is to create Sulphite scarabs by target farming betrayal as much as you can. So that just means doing your Jun daily and aggressively focusing on getting the best people into intervention, getting them up to tier 3 if possible, and getting gathering Sulphite scarabs that way. You might also get some other scarabs as well, which is a bonus. And the third way is selling your Niko daily, and also Niko will sometimes respawn. It's a 4% chance after you complete a map for Niko to respawn on the Atlas. There is also an 8% chance for you, when you go into a map, for Niko just to be there if no other master was scheduled to be there. So if there's no master daily on it, there'll be a 4% chance, an 8% chance for Niko to be there. Each time you find Niko, just consider selling him. Try to get 25 chaos if it's a tier 16, 15 or 14 map. Try to get 20 if it is a tier 8 up to tier 13 map, and you probably can't sell tier 7 and down. If you can't sell them at the original asking price, just keep dropping down until you get a bite. Anyways, that's all I've got in terms of methods for indirectly interacting with the synthesis economy in order to make yourself currency in this league. As I say, I've been personally having fun with this league, but these are some suggestions for those of you that aren't. Until next time, feel free to ask any questions you've got, and have fun.